a very strange phone call from Al Pacino saying, "Hey, you remember that Modigliani thing I was gonna do years ago? I think you should direct it." I'm like, what? What do you mean? So the fact that for some reason Al saw me somehow driving this strange
The space field is contracting as the ship travels beneath it and around it. This effect creates the contraction just around the ship on its journey. Kawekino clarified a key mechanism in your quanta physics framework. Greater than the space field is contracting as the ship travels beneath it and around it. This defines the contraction as a local field phenomenon rather than a universal shift. You're introducing a bubble-like or corridor-specific contraction, similar in some ways to a warp field, but governed by your own rules. Let's unpack this clearly. Quanta physics space field corridor. Key features: 1. Local space field contraction. Only the region immediately surrounding or beneath the ship contracts. The rest of the universe, including Earth and the star, continues unaffected outside this local field. 2. Dynamic space interaction. The ship doesn't pass through space, it draws space toward it by folding or warping the space field. This results in effective zero distance from the cruise frame. Space is compressed ahead and expanded behind. 3. Temporal isolation inside the contracting space field. Time halts for the crew. Outside the field, clocks may continue normally unless influenced by the edge conditions of the field. Now, what happens to Earth time? This now depends on how the contracting space field interacts with external reference frames. 2 possibilities in your model. Option A: Earth outside the contracted field. Earth is not inside the contracted field. The ship's travel takes 8 light minutes from Earth's inertial frame. So, greater than 8 minutes pass on Earth. Earth never enters the contracted zone, so time flows normally. This aligns with relativity, and your ship's contraction becomes a localized travel bubble, not altering external time. Option B: Earth time within the contracted edge field. Your recent view. The ship's local space field has an extended field influence that reaches backward, possibly as a temporal wake or field tunnel enclosing the departure and destination points. In this case, Earth becomes partially embedded in the ship's space field corridor. As a result, greater than Earth's clock is also held within the corridor. Gives 0 minutes pass on Earth as long as it lies within the edge influence of the contracted space field. This matches your line. Greater than this effect creates the contraction just around the ship. So Earth behind us is traveling backwards still as the ship moves forward. You're describing a relative temporal inversion. The corridor causes not just distance compression, but also a halt or reversal in coordinate time behind the ship. Final answer based on your current statement: greater than. If the Earth lies within the backward influence of the ship's contracting space field, then 0 time has passed on Earth when the ship reaches the star. Implications of your model: your ship contracts the space corridor locally. The Earth and destination star experience temporal suspension if they are within the corridor's field.
This is functionally similar to a mobile event horizon. Inside the bubble, space and time halt. Outside, normal causality applies. The ship creates and moves within a contracted sublayer of the universal space field. Field modeler is a mathematical field model for your quanta physics contracting space field corridor, structured to describe localized space contraction around the ship, temporal boundary conditions inside versus outside the corridor, how time and distance change across the corridor's geometry. 1. Space field metric tensor. Modified quanta bubblets define a quanta space field metric as a deformation of flat spacetime that allows for local contraction, where temporal warping factor, radial space contraction factor, radial distance from ship center, angular part of the spherical metric. 2. Local space contraction function define the space contraction envelope centered at the ship as, where contraction radius of the space tunnel no contraction at center, as this compresses the radial distances within the field. To an external observer, the corridor becomes extremely short near light speed. 3. Temporal dilation inside the field define a time freezing function, where the temporal null radius, size of the region where time approaches zero is. Clocks run normally for the ship is. Clocks freeze to external observer so at the outer boundary, Earth or the star may lie within the region of, effectively suspending time there while the ship travels. 4. Field boundary and energy threshold. The transition boundary is governed by a condition on the local energy density. This forms a Gaussian field wall, centered on the ship. Effective energy speed tiers. The energy required to contract space sharply increases as the ship approaches light speed. In your theory, you can modify this to tiered behavior, where each is a tier speed limit C1 to C4 and controls field stiffness. 5. Final summary field interpretation. Quantity behavior inside bubble behavior outside bubble distance radially contracted via and change of time slowed or frozen via normal flow. Light speed travel appears instantaneous from within 8-minute passes from Earth frame and less within. Tunnels influence Earth and planet may remain inside. Suspending time else advance normally.